YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back, breaking down another big trade. Dee Ford traded to the Niners. We'll go over the details and my thoughts and my grades here in a bit. Probably be a quicker video, just a one-for-one trade. Dee Ford for a pick, so I'll just give my thoughts and grades. Also, I have a Niners 7-round mock draft coming later today. We already did the Cardinals. We're going in draft order. Going to have an updated regular mock draft later in the week, kind of waiting to see if there's any trades that shake up the draft order before I do that. So a lot going on here. A lot going on here at the Goat House. Right before we get into this, check out our Twitter, Instagram, and our Patreon. Links in the description for all. Constantly talking on the Twitter, so it's a must follow. But let's get on to the Dee Ford trade. So Dee Ford goes to the Niners. The Chiefs get a 2020 second round pick. So they don't even get a pick for this year. They get it for next year. Dee Ford, he's had some solid years, but this past year was really his only really good year. But it was a very, very good season. He was he's not an elite pass rusher because he's only had one really good year, but on the season, 2018 season, he was an elite pass rusher. So very impressive season. Could be a little better in the run game, but still young, can still get better. But the pass rush was unreal. Even when he wasn't getting sacks, he was constantly bringing pressure. So I think since the Chiefs were pretty much putting him out there where we might be trading this guy, I definitely would have gave a call. Pretty much any team, mainly the 3-4 teams, which is weird because, the Niners' base defense is a 4-3, but their plans are to run what is a Leo defense. Basically one of the edge rushers is a defensive end, a linebacker / defensive end, which Dee Ford, that fits Dee Ford. He's mainly an outside linebacker, but it's very similar to what the Chargers run. Gus Bradley's defense, Melvin Ingram is your Leo guy. He's off the ball a lot. He almost acts as an outside linebacker, but can line up and does line up in a line as a defensive end. But most time off the ball, almost looks like an outside linebacker, while the opposite side, Joey Bosa, is constantly on the line. He's a traditional 4-3 end. So the Niners will run that, which makes sense with Dee Ford. And the opposite side, we'll see who that will be. They currently have Solomon Thomas at their 4-3 end. I coming in as a prospect, I thought he was strictly a 3-4 end, and we're starting to see that could be the case. Can they slide him to D tackle? Will they play him opposite of Dee Ford? Will they draft Bosa? Will they draft Quinnen Williams? We'll kind of talk more about that in my 9 or 7 round mock draft. It kind of matched up on it. The timing was great here that we do this video and the 9 or 7 round mock draft in the same day. So that worked out. That will be coming shortly after this. So we'll talk more on that, but it makes sense for the Niners to run the Leo for Dee Ford. It makes a lot. Or if they want to switch to a 3-4, they could switch to a 3-4, play Solomon Thomas at 3-4 end and Buckner at 3-4 end. That makes a lot of sense to me. They have Cassius Marsh, who can play an outside linebacker. They could draft another guy. They have the second overall pick. So the Niners can do many things here. I think this is a good trade. You got a good player. The Chiefs, it's very questionable what the Chiefs are doing because their defense was pretty poor last year. But the reason it wasn't the absolute worst defense in football was because their pass rush. Dee Ford, they led the NFL in sacks. Dee Ford, Justin Houston, and Chris Jones. They cut Justin Houston because he gets a lot of money. They don't think he really can fit their 4-3 that great. They trade Dee Ford, best pass rusher last year, because they don't think he can fit their new defense. They didn't want to pay him a whole bunch of money. And then Chris Jones has got to switch positions now. He's strictly a 3-4 end in my opinion. Is he going to play 4-3 D tackle? Is he going to play 4-3 end? Might be too big for that. Maybe not enough speed. We will see. It's going to be very interesting, very questionable what the Chiefs are doing here. To me, it looks like they're rebuilding the defense completely. They went and signed Tyrann Mathieu. That was good. But they're completely rebuilding the defense here when all they needed to do was just, keep 3-4, revamp the secondary. I don't know. That's just my thoughts. Maybe they thought Dee Ford could fit. Maybe it was just they don't really trust him to have consistent good years, which I don't know why they wouldn't. But and they didn't want to pay him all that money. The Niners did give him a pretty big contract, but I think it's worth it, especially with the cap they had. They went out and did that, so we'll see. But let's get on to my grades. The Niners, I'm giving the Niners an A+ because they traded a next year second round pick. It's a good deal. I think I would have given an A+ even if it was a this year second round pick, but I kind of thought maybe it would be a second round pick and maybe a day 3 pick, a later maybe 5th through 7th round possibly. So it was a good deal. I like what they're doing with their defense. It actually make a little more sense if they switch to a 3-4, but they got a plan. They got a plan. We'll talk about what I think their plan is and why they're going to keep it to a 4-3 but run the Leo. And I don't think it has to do with just Dee Ford, but we're going to talk about that a little more in my 9 or 7 round mock, which is coming today. So it's very intriguing what the Niners are doing here. But A+ because they gave up 1 pick only, and it was a next year pick. They can continue. It's great too because they only have 6 picks. I was surprised to see that when I was making the mock draft, creating determining who they would get. I noticed they have 6 draft picks, so they did not want to end up with 5 this year. So props to them. That's just fantastic. They got next year's instead of this year's. So A+, they got a great pass rusher. They're going to do interesting things with him. They're going to make sure he fits, and they're going to be able to use him in multiple ways. So I like what the Niners did. The Chiefs get a D for Dee Ford, and that's not why I gave him a D, but I thought that was funny. But I didn't completely flunk them. I didn't give them an F because I guess they saved a lot of money, and they are switching to a 4-3, even though I don't agree with the switching to the 4-3. So that kind of goes into the D too, the D grade too. But so I didn't completely give them an F because I guess really they saved the money, and they're going to get guys that fit a little better. But the reason it's a D, you just traded. He was your best defensive player last year. I know some people would argue Chris Jones. Maybe some would argue Justin. Dee Ford was their best player last year, in my opinion. Best defensive player, in my opinion. And he's young. You trade him away. You're switching defenses. I don't understand. You don't need to change the defense and rebuild it. You just need to add some defensive back. Yeah, you need to add quite a bit of defensive backs, but none of it really makes sense to me. And on top of it, I thought they could have got a this year. They're trying to win a Super Bowl right now. They're going to be trying to win the Super Bowl every year, but from now on with Patrick Mahomes in that offense. But the goal, you got to take it year by year. You almost got there last year. You were very close. You were in overtime with the Patriots, and I would pick the Chiefs if they would have went against the Rams. I would have picked the Chiefs, but you never know. But so your goal this year is to win a Super Bowl. Nobody's arguing that. If anybody thinks otherwise, you're crazy. But at the same time, you're rebuilding your defense, so it looks a little questionable. And you could have used a pick for this year because your goal is to win a Super Bowl to help rebuild that defense, and you got one next year. So, especially because you got one next year, 2020, you couldn't get even a 7th-round pick to go along with that, whether it's this year, 2020. The Niners don't have a 7th round this year, but 2020, 2021, you couldn't get something else. Like, you're that desperate to move on. It was almost like it was, a desperation move, which should not have been. So I'm giving them a D for that. Again, only reason I'm not giving an F because they didn't have to spend a whole bunch of money, and they're switching defenses, but I still don't really agree with it. But that's my take on that. Let me know your guys' thoughts. We can do more of these videos. I kind of it'd be ideal if multiple trades can happen so they can build up so I can do it all in one video. That makes a little more sense. Hopefully there's multiple trades that happen. Somebody, actually a couple guys I was thinking for the Chiefs. I know I'm a Vikings fan, so I know that the Vikings are in a tight cap situation signing Anthony Barr. They're trying to restructure Everson Griffin's contract, and if they can't, they could trade him. And I know teams have been calling about Trey Waynes. As a Vikings fan, I want both those guys on my team next year, but both of them make a lot of sense for the Chiefs. Yeah, they want more draft picks, and I don't see them trading for both. It's maybe unlikely they trade for either one, but Everson Griffin is a great 4-3 end. You need a 4-3 end, and the Viking, the value might, his value might be like 2nd round, but it's going to be way less than that. You're going to give up maybe a 4th or a 5th for him because, what happened with him last year and the contract situation, and teams know the Vikings are pretty much desperate to make room for some space, even though they don't really want to get rid of him. But I think you can get him for a 4th or 5th, and then Trey Waynes, I think his value is a 2nd or 3rd, but he's got 1 year left on his deal, so you have to extend him. Chiefs are desperate for a corner. I think Waynes is a very good corner, pretty solid corner. I think people hate on him a little too much, but the Chiefs can trade. Since he's only got 1 year, that drops the value. They can trade a 4th or a 5th for him. A lot of that makes sense. So that's a team I would look out for to possibly make a move before the rest of during the rest of free agency into the draft. So those are just some guys that I think make sense in their defense, but we'll see. We will see what those teams got for us here. Free agency doesn't completely you can't officially make moves until later this afternoon. So things are going to start getting, even though a lot happens, things are going to get going again. So it's going to be fun here. But 20K, our subscriber goal. We got constant NFL content, free agency draft, all kinds of predictions during the season. we got you covered here. So you better subscribe if you haven't quite yet. That'll be much appreciated if you do so. Clicking the like button, clicking that notification button will be big time too. We have kind of random videos sometimes that aren't scheduled. Same thing with live streams. So you're going to want to turn the notifications on. We keep you updated as best we can on Twitter too, so you should follow that. That'll be much appreciated as well. But that's going to do it for this one. Trying to get to these team-by-team 7-round mock drafts. Hopefully we can rip those out. Regular mock drafts. A lot to come here. Thanks, everyone, for their support. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.